First of all, I want to start this video saying that I know that many of you are now on your winter holiday and that school is probably the least of your priorities and that you probably don't want to hear about it right now. As much as I would like to make this video next week, I have something pretty special planned and it's a bit of a surprise. And on top of that, Boxing Day is coming soon, which is probably going to mean a little more to us Canadians than our neighbors down south, but I'm going to talk about my favorite note-taking device for post-secondary education, and that is the Apple iPad Pro. This thing is seriously my favorite note-taking device. Here I have the 10.5-inch 64GB Space Gray model, but it also comes in a 12.9-inch form factor. The color as well as the storage is also customizable. The battery life on the iPad Pro is great. I can easily go a whole day with it, even 2 days. I charge every single night when I'm going to college. I usually end the day with around 40%. So if I missed a charge, I would just be a little more conservative, maybe turn down the brightness a little bit. Now, the thing about the iPad Pro is it's an expensive purchase. So if you're gonna buy it, you may as well go all out because that is how you get the full experience. The first accessory to get is a keyboard. Now, this is the official Apple keyboard, which costs more than $100. It's very expensive for what it does. It's not even Bluetooth, it connects via these pins, but you can go on Amazon and find a Bluetooth keyboard for much less. I do like this keyboard, however, because it does fold nicely and props your iPad up like a stand, which is very useful, but some of the Amazon alternatives do that too. I will leave a link in the description below as to where you can find the alternative keyboard covers. So the keys are definitely compacted. They are much closer than you would expect on a full-size keyboard, but they do feel very nice. In fact, the key travel feels much better than my MacBook Pro. I actually prefer typing on my iPad than I do on my MacBook Pro's standard keyboard. You also have your standard control, option, and command keys, which all work inside apps. Overall, I would highly recommend getting this keyboard if you have an iPad Pro, or at least a keyboard of some sort, some substitute. Then, the next product is the Apple Pencil, which can also be substituted using any third-party stylus, but those are a little different. Apple's hardware is very well optimized for the Apple Pencil, and this hard surface right here creates a near frictionless contact between the surface of the iPad and your Apple Pencil. So this is an especially great option if you are some sort of artist and you like to draw a lot or sketch or paint. It's also great for those situations where you just have to handwrite notes. I found it very useful in discrete mathematics, even though I dropped that course halfway through. There were just characters that were too difficult to type with the keyboard. But moving on to what I actually take my notes on the iPad, we are going to talk about the one application that I use, and that application happens to be OneNote by Microsoft. Now, those who have been following my channel for a while know that I'm an absolute Google fanboy, and that I try to use most of Google's applications for what I do. Now, while I think that Google Docs is a pretty good platform for note-taking, I think that Microsoft OneNote just takes it a step further. You get way more options, it's just way more flexible. The only trade-off I think is the syncing. Syncing is just no good on this app. It's totally unreliable, but it does work. It's just a bad experience trying to sync across multiple devices. That's why I picked up the keyboard here, because I'm trying to centralize all of the note-taking on the iPad. So in OneNote, obviously you can type out your notes, but if you enter the draw mode, you can actually take the Apple Pencil and start drawing. This means various things. You can use a highlighter pen to highlight parts of the text that you typed in. You can use the markers to actually write stuff or even draw diagrams. It's really useful. One unexpected advantage that I noticed while using OneNote was that I was actually able to share my notes with anyone I wanted, and I didn't have to make copies of it or take pictures. I would just share a link and they would have access to all the notes I want them to see. It's especially useful for the collaborative projects that you might encounter. So overall with OneNote, it's a great app as long as you're not trying to fight with the whole syncing situation. Also, at the beginning of the fourth quarter of this year, Apple released iOS 11, and along with that came the Files app, which allows your iPad to download files off the cloud. And I found this particularly useful when my teachers would upload their PDF files on the internet. I could download them from my college's website, then I can put them into the Files app, and from there, I would transfer into OneNote, where I can take my Apple Pencil and start writing all over it. So those two applications already make the iPad a great companion for post-secondary education. However, if you are an artist and you want to make the most out of your Apple Pencil, you can download an app called Procreate. It does cost a little bit of money, Everything else I've mentioned in this video is free in terms of applications, but Procreate costs a little bit. It doesn't cost a whole lot. I can't remember how much it was exactly. I think it might have been like $5. But it gives you all the tools that you would need to create like a masterpiece on your iPad. Now, I'm not very good at drawing, but I've seen videos on YouTube and I know how capable this app is. It'll even record every single stroke that you make and effectively make a time-lapse or a speed art of your creation, all without having to hit any record button. That's pretty useful. There's also Inbox by Gmail, which I obviously use. I use Gmail, so Inbox, in my opinion, is the best interface for it. It just gives you a really clean environment and really declutters everything. And then you have YouTube for all the in-between class sessions where you just have some time to kill. Also Reddit if you're into that. One gripe I have with the iPad Pro is that it doesn't come with a calculator app. Not even a very basic one, let alone a scientific one. And that means you have to go into the App Store and download one, and they all have ads unless you pay for them. That is insane for a basic service. Apple needs to make a calculator app. So that is it for my iPad setup for college. Let me know what you think of it in the comments below and whether or not you have something similar. Thank you for watching and happy holidays. It's snowing today in Vancouver. I did think that we were going to have a white Christmas this year, but maybe that will happen. I'm taking a break from my project to go to a party right now, so check back later.